Soon you will find out exactly what is meant when we say debut. Introductory video of Debut Now. Welcome to the introductory videos for Debut. And we are going to have an amazing time today because one of our featured tellers of Debut is with me. It'll be his debut on Debut's introductory debut. Say that 3 times fast. But you're probably asking, what is Debut? And we're going to share that on February 28th. But today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk to some of the storytellers. So that's the first thing. Debut is about storytelling, but it's different because debut means to make a first appearance or a formal entrance into society. And the debut that we have is a fusion between play and storytelling. So the makeup of it is going to be completely different than a storytelling performance because it also emphasizes story making. I'm Kevin Cordy, and I'm the host today of Debut. This is the debut, and I would like to bring on someone that is quite a storyteller, now hailing in Texas, but has traveled all over the world and lived in various places. He is a storyteller who's actually presented at the Kennedy Center in DC at the National Storytelling Festival. And this is what I want to tell you is that I know this teller because whether he's using his drums or not, he always has rhythm in his telling, a cadence, a sense of spark, of a whole idea of finding life every time he tells a story. He's quite accomplished, and we're so glad to have Oba William King, the poetic storyteller, today. And let's see if we can bring him in. Oba, welcome.
Hi there.
Hey, how are you?
Those are kind words you
Let me
share.
get you back.
Thank you so much. Am I in the mute or on the mute
I
or
think you're
you
good.
you see me live?
I see
Howdy,
you
buddy.
live. You are live. So,
Excellent.
Oba, tell us a little bit about how you came to come on Debut.
How did I get to debut on debut?
Yes.
So I'm friends with the leadership.
It's good to know people in high places or low places.
But that's it. Just
I'm going to bring you on board here. There we go. Welcome,
as a
welcome.
storyteller, the amazing traditional art form of storytelling. And there's some elders in our community. I was talking with Mama Kimba for years and years. She's done the historical characterizations in full, in full costume, voice and movement, embodying the historic figure and telling the part of the story very much like a Chautauqua performance, but as an independent artist. And I got to study at her knee, sitting at the lap of someone like Mama Kemba, the teachers and elders, Oscar Brown Jr. and Sam Greenlee. In the African American community, one of the first people to write a soap opera and produce it for television was Okoro Harold Johnson. He was the artistic director of the theater company on the south side of Chicago called ETA. And got to sit at their knee, and it was a time of learning because they were actually, over a period of time, they were the age I am now when I met them. And I know the feeling that they must have had. At this age, you feel like sharing your experiences in a way that you leave your legacy. People can know a process. And so for the past 40 years, I've been independent freelance storytelling artist.
Oh, but what a
And
wonderful gift.
marketing, the the act of storytelling, the most beautiful process of getting assignments. How do you put bread and butter on the table with your assignments? How do you get assignments? Word of mouth.
And there's so much behind the scenes of storytelling, and it's an art and a practice. And you have, uh, like you said, been at the knee at some of the giants. And the whole thing is sometimes we don't talk about the process. We do the performance, but we don't talk about the process. And so debut is a little unique in the sense of you're going to tell a story, right?
Yeah,
And then you and I are going to play together with that story. And then we'll
yeah,
all come together and talk about that process. So,
yeah.
why is this unique to you? Have you heard something like this?
Well, and only in that, when you're in a community of artists, that's some of the nurturing that occurs.
Or should?
And well, I happened to grow up in Chicago. Most of my time as a storyteller, from stage actor to storyteller, was in Chicago with the Chicago Association of Black Storytellers, part of the National Association of Black Storytellers. And Ashe had a standard of, during the course of the year, these were the programs that they presented either at the library, at the university, and within the public schools, and for the organization at a local church. We met in the back room of the local church. It's a beautiful place too, and we'd have our annual fundraiser at that place. So the process of preparing to be on stage, to tell a story for one of the organizational events, that was this
Mm.
uh, that opportunity to dissect the work, to tell the story so other tellers can hear you. And and mother mother mentor had a beautiful process she called hugs and something. And
The hug
hugs where
is
you did
important.
this really well, and the something was, if you had done this, that might have taken it there, you know.
It,
So
you're right. There's a lot of difference between if you would have done that, and then there's some form of coaching that is you must do this, you must do that. And we need to really engage the process. And this time, we're going to hear stories for the first time. This is the debut of a public performance that you've never told.
yeah,
And at the same time, for a year and a half, once I discovered storytelling at about 19 years old, it took me a year to find any storytelling organization, guild, or movement. There were no storytellers that were 19 telling that I could find, and that happened for years. And I
yeah,
think it's because we don't talk about the process, and sometimes we don't say, hey, come on board. Like you've
yeah,
learned. Don't you think we should
yeah,
do that more often?
yeah. I see a lot of process out there now, from certain tellers that have their way of doing things, and especially with the ones who have the technology, and they've experienced feedback on the microphone, and they've done some things with lighting, and they can tell you how lighting is. Uh, but developing that art form, and then in some ways it's you become a storyteller. In some ways it's internal and instinctual, though you can attend college courses on the art of storytelling, and you can train in multiple workshops with people in voice and diction, character development, research and delivery. Those you can do movement. You can,
So,
all of those aspects can be taught, but the combination of what it takes to engage an audience, that's trial and error.
right. We've all made mistakes, and
Go do it
yeah,
and then do it again. And
and
audiences are forgiving creatures.
exactly, and that's part of
They'll
the fun.
go where you're taking them.
You
We beat
know,
ourselves up so much, but they're like, they bought the ticket, they they're sitting in their seat. It's up to you to say, okay, strap in, or you can take the seatbelt off. This is going to be a smooth ride. You're like the pilot. Let's
there you
go.
go. And there may be some bumps, and it's okay. Oba, I know the answer to this question, but I want people to know the answer from you. Would you consider yourself a storyteller that uses play?
Absolutely.
And can you give us an example? Because I see you doing it all the time.
I play. I like to play. I like to play because number one, to play is because ultimately, too, storytelling is within the family of theater, and to do the work in the theater is to put on a play, and to play in translates into the deepest regions of your entire body, is as have fun. So when it's time to play, and then you could sing little songs about it. It's time to play, time to play, it's time to happen. You could do whatever you need to do to get that audience where you need them to be prepared to go where you want to take them. And for those 7 to 9 minutes, oh, I figured out why you don't get so long to do your time when you're on a show with other people, because because it's a powerful art form. And in those few moments, you can take people where somebody might not want you to take them. You, so you need to have like an exit strategy, because have you ever told a really sad part in the story, and then you heard this kind of one, two chuckles? It's a really sad part in the story, and you'll hear like, and it's not an appropriate laugh place. If your heart will allow you to, do not take your eyes to that person. That person is feeling the pain of that moment, and laughter is a shield, and it protects you from just bawling out. But storytelling has a lot of power, and
and
in order to get to that power, you got to be willing to play. Got to be willing to have fun.
Oba,
See, I'm going to learn to sit more still. That's my job. That's the thing
Oba,
that
I've
I
never
need.
seen you sit still.
I
I mean,
know.
now it's shared
So,
power, is it not, Oba? The audience, the example you just gave, you have a wonderful way of just saying, I need not look at this person, but realize they're in that different part of that story. And you're
yeah,
sharing storytelling in its purest form, for me at least, is a co-creative work between the audience and the teller. And then the story making it doesn't have to be lonely. It doesn't have to be by yourself. Just having a listening partner, or one that says, so for example, I was working with someone recently and I said, could you just listen for when I say words that might be need to be larger? And they listened and they said, oh, here are 3 points where I think it could be larger. That is playing together. What about you?
yeah.
Do you find yourself, do you have playful partners when you're working with story, or you just go out and say, hey, I'm going to play with the audience today?
Okay, I still have my imaginary friends from childhood, so they get to be in the room. There's Oba, there's Billy, There's William, who is quite the professional young man. So, stepping outside of myself and into them, finding who is telling the story, that's
Wow.
part of the fun.
Tell me more about
Uh,
that.
yeah, sitting still is that's a difficulty that, yeah, I don't know if I could really do this for any length of time, but my oh, and so now also as you were just talking, um, belonging to an organization helps along the way because you have family members in your family who might love what you do, but those storytellers within the organization see what you're saying. They understand that phone call.
They've done it before, right?
Yeah. And if you have access to phone somebody and just say, I'm working on a new piece and I'm blah, 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 blah. Do you have some time today or tomorrow, tonight or right now? And, you know, and you set it up to, and even in this time of what you call social distancing, it's still about voice. It's still about creating the images with the words, and it's so you can work. I'm talking to myself, right now,
Sure.
because I've been studying alone, and yeah, so some saying, "Oh, I'm talking to myself," because I've got friends to call and say, "Hey, I'm working on this thing and it's bouncing around my head and I want to say it out loud. Can you tell me what I said?"
Let me ask you a question. When do you know that a story works?
Mm. I don't know that I have a pat answer. I'm listening to that question. I promised, I think, when you've completed the tell to me, not until you've completed the tell.
So what is
I,
the,
I
like actual
think
telling of it?
Yes, because some of it is that, and this goes back to my early days. One of the favorite things that I used to say is, people always tell you to look before you leap. People always say that you must look before you leap, and that is very true. You must look before you leap, but you must leap.
Yeah, yeah.
So, perfecting the story in the mirror and at the desk, even on the camera,
And on the phone and with a friend.
until until you add that ingredient at the audience. That would be my answer. And if you recorded this and years from now they say, yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, I understand that answer.
And
Until
it has to
until
click.
you've added the element of audience, it's not complete.
I agree.
That's
And
that's
so that's kind of what we're doing with debut, right? You're going to be telling a story for the first.
brand
You're an accomplished storyteller, but
new.
you're going to tell a story no one's heard. We'll get feedback from audience members, whether it's in the chat room or otherwise, and then all the other tellers can come back and give you feedback too. I
Yeah.
I I love the spirit of that, but I'm a practitioner of play, um, and so tease us on. You were telling me that you had like two different possibilities for your story. So I want listeners to that listen to this say, I know a little bit about Oba's choices. Let's see what he makes.
Oh, sure. Well, most importantly, so as it being debut, one of the things I tend to rarely do, or maybe I do all of the time, is to go into the well of the African American folktale.
Mm.
And the deeper element of that are the stories that were written as part of the genre. Written as part of the genre. Like I'll take Shakespeare and tell it the way that I feel it. And that's not from the genre of African American storytelling. That's me, an African American man telling a story. But this is from the genre of African folk tales. These one of two. And one of them is the one about the water, and I have this real desire to tell this one story because of the magic of water. My name Oba. Many people who know they know that that name came from the water, hearing the sound of the water. Within the African American culture, it's very the water is very important because of the boat ride and our heritage and our history of leaving the motherland of Africa and coming into America, knowing the connections of that to a people. And so it's all the strengths of that.
Wow.
And
That's enough to know. Yes. That's a,
yeah, so some of that is happening. And the other story is like uh, old John. And in African folklore, African American folk tales, there's that hero character who's John. And uh, people will think of John the Conqueror. People remember that some of the stories that became the early stories within the Black family were about the witty rabbit, Brer Rabbit, who became Bugs Bunny, or how it was that the animals were so bright enough to outsmart, outwit the smaller animals were smart enough to outwit the bigger animals. And that was, just that relationship between the person who's being held down and the one who is, using every piece of their wit, their mind, their brain to get out of captivity. The briar patch comes to mind. And John is a hero who just had to outwit the master. That's all that is you know everyone's always trying to give you half a portion, not being fair, and then say we're going to go 50-50, and they've got their thumb on the scale. And in life today, it's like people got their thumb on the scale. So using story to teach a lesson and to give honor to heritage and culture. So
those are powerful and dynamic choices. And just hearing the little bit, I'm looking forward to hearing more. And with debut, you have the choice of
they
whatever you want
do.
to. Debut for debut, Oba and debut kind of goes together, right? And I didn't know about the sound of the water, so I love that. It just
Ah,
means a lot. Yeah, definitely.
yeah,
And you mentioned, I often go from Appalachia to the Jacktails and the richness of the Jacktails. And I
yeah.
actually wrote a book called "You Don't Know Jack: A Storyteller Goes to School" that uses Jack as a metaphor for learning. And there's so much. There's so much in story. I think it, but there's all the subtext of story. What you
Oh,
don't say
yeah.
is important as what you do say. I'm excited, Oba. This is going
I
to be
am, I
great.
am, I am. I'm looking forward to audience, audii. One of my joys is telling um, to all ages. It's a tagline in my promotional material, all ages and cultures. The youngest person can tune in or sit in their mama's arms or papa's arms. Okay, you can sit in your papa's arms
Sure.
and if nothing else, the cadence, the rhythm, the sound, the tone uh,
And the teller.
captures some element of spirit and energy.
Oba, you
So
say in your bio,
come one, come all. Tell
share it.
somebody.
Storytelling is sharing the art of storytelling as though it were a sacred gift. It is a sacred gift, and it becomes a bigger gift when it's in the hands of talented tellers like Oba William King.
Ah,
I'm going to give you the last word, um, and you can close out our program. Hold on, but as a friend, as a teller, as a listener, as a learner, I enjoy every moment with Yoba. It's great.
Kevin, I thought it was an honor that right when you thought of the idea of debut and debuting debut that you called to say, that's great, and I am grateful that you said, "Hey, Oba, come on and play."
Excellent.
There's truth in the word and the ability to work at sharing it right. A lot of our audience are going to be storytellers and love it, love it. Let's build some scaffolding that we can begin to use as younger only in that experience sense. Come along and say, well, how do I? How can I? And that's where we move from the realm of the master storyteller to the becoming the sage, and it's that time. It's that time, and so I'm grateful that the opportunity is here. I hope that I encourage people tune in.
Thank you.
Let's tell stories. I'm gonna tell a story. You're gonna hear a story. We're gonna have a story together. I'm gonna tell a story.